What's the difference against direct variations and inverse?
On a graph, how you find it, the equation.
How you find it, and a little bit on the equation.
So the equation for direct is your y equals kx. For inverse is y equals k over x. But how you find it, the ratio for finding k for direct is y over x. For finding inverse is x times y or y times x. So you're multiplying and dividing for both, but it depends on what are you looking for. Are you solving for k? Are you looking for the equation? So like if it just says, like if it gives you an ordered pair or something and tells you to write the inverse constant, like the equation. If it says write the constant, that's just looking for k. But if it says write the inverse variation equation, you would write it in this format: y equals k over x, whatever k is. You would just put that. So it would look like one of these. Other questions? Sorry.
I'm confused with the equation for I don't actually know.
Like which problem are you talking about?
Oh, like maybe 3 and 4
on this page. So for 3, this is going to be linear because it's in standard form. If we were to solve it, we would get it back in slope intercept form. Without solving this, I can say it's not going to be direct because the y-intercept is going to be 0. But you could solve it just to make sure. So if you did solve it, you would get positive for x minus 1. It is a line, but it doesn't go through the origin. The y-intercept isn't 0, so it can't be direct. It's not inverse. It would be neither.
Why isn't it inverse?
Inverse wouldn't be a line.
Oh.
It's that hyperbole. Let me do 4 and then you can ask a question. Unless it's about this one.
Yeah, so no. Okay, so if there's like any equation like that, it's inverse.
Yes, unless it starts off equaling 0. So like if this same equation equals 0, when you solve it, this part would be the same, but then this would be plus 0. So then you have a y-intercept of 0. That would be the only time it is direct.
What about like the negative and 0, but it
Yes, if this problem, if we solved it, we get y equals 4x plus 0, then that would count, yes. Number 4, this is not in either format, your y equals kx or your y equals k over x, so you have to solve for y, get rid of 3, and then figure out which format that's in. Is that direct, inverse, or neither?
So what would an inverse equation look like?
Y equals k over x. So any of the examples on the front.
So number 1.
No. Because x is in the denominator.
Oh.
Other questions?
Okay, so inverse problems, it would just be like y, for example, y equals like 3 over 5x.
No. Because that's like this. It would have to be y equals 3 over x. Y equals 5 over x. If you have y equals, you're not going to have it like that, or you have a fraction in x unless it looks like this. But that would be direct, not inverse. Next. So if you don't recognize, so right now that's not in y equals kx or y equals k over x. But then look at how you find k. K equals x times y for inverse, and it's in that format. So without doing anything, you can say that's inverse. Or if you don't remember that, you could solve for y, divide by x. And that would be inverse. Other questions? Number 1, would that be direct, inverse, or neither?
Oh, yeah.
Direct. It's in the format y equals kx.
So if it looks like this,
5 on the same page.
if it looks like this, it's inverse.
Yes. So for number 5, if you have a table, ordered pairs, or the mapping, all of these work the same. If you're given choices, you have to guess. Do you think this is going to be direct or inverse? Inverse. So if we think it's going to be inverse, start multiplying. Negative 4 times 6 would give us
Negative
negative 2 times 12,
Negative 24.
and 8 times negative 3.
Negative 24.
So if we multiply and we get the same thing, it's inverse. If we start to multiply and they were not the same, we'd have to start dividing y by x to see if it's direct. If they're all the same, it would be direct. If they're not all the same and you already tried inverse, it's neither. That's
Can you remember to do on the second page?
yes. You do have a question on this one.
Yeah. So if you multiply it with inverse and you divide it,
Yes. If they're the same when you do that. You said number 2 on this page. So in that format for number 2, would that be direct, inverse, or neither? Neither. It is a line, but it doesn't go through the order. Hello. On this page. So number 7 does not look like any of our formats, the equation formats or how we find k. So we can solve this for y by doing what? Multiplying both sides by y. Now when I do that, I have xy equals 16. Does that look like one of our formats?
yeah.
Inverse. Now, if you still weren't sure, you could keep solving for y and divide both sides by x. But if you recognize it here, then you don't have
Can we do 18 on the last page?
18 on the left.
Not
The second block, right? After reading
Did you look?
8, yes. I'm just going to go from circle this one. So number 8, looking at how this looks, would this be direct, inverse, or neither? So it looks like this. This would be neither, but it equals 0, so that's going to be direct. And you could solve it to figure that out. Right. 18 on the front of the last page. In which table does y not vary directly as x? So you have choices. You can either start doing all of them, figure out which one is not the answer. You can choose one to start with, see if that works. So let's choose one. Which one do we think is not the answer? Or is not correct? D. Okay, so let's start with that one. Very directly, we're dividing y over x. So negative 1 divided by negative 2 would give us positive 1. Positive, yes. And then negative 2 divided by negative 1.
That's 2.
Positive 2. Already these are not the same, so that would be the one that is not direct. That would be our answer. Which one? I think we did this one already. But we could do it again. So the number of calories burned while jogging varies directly with the number of minutes spent jogging. If George burns 150 calories by jogging for 20 minutes. How many calories does he burn by jogging for 30 minutes? So what's important?
The calories burned
Varies
while
directly. The calories burned, you're talking about the words? Or
Yeah.
words? Okay. Number of calories burned,
George burns 150.
150.
Minutes.
Number of minutes or the 20 or 30? Okay.
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
130.
How many calories and so if we were to put variables to this, number of calories would be which variable?
Y.
Y. Whatever comes first is always your Y. Whatever comes second is X. So then you can go through and label the rest. Calories is Y, minutes is X, minutes is X. What variable are we looking for?
X.
Y.
Dependent.
Right. It says varies directly, so we're going to use all of the direct variation equations. K, how would we find it?
150 divided by
50 divided by 20.
20. That equals 7.5.
That would be calories per minute. Alright, and then if we were to set up our equation, what would that look like? Which would give us 225 what?
Calories.
Yes, which one? On the left. 24 is the yes. On the same page?
Yes.
We'll do 19 really fast and then go 2, 6, 24, right? And then we'll do 2. Alright, so 19, which set of ordered pairs satisfies an inverse variation? So it's basically like 18, but it's asking which one is an inverse. So in order to find an inverse, we have to multiply. So if we were to, let's guess, which one do you think is the inverse?
A.
Okay. So 6 times 3 would give us 18. 8 times 4 would give us
32.
so not M. D. 2 times 6 would give us
12.
and negative 3 times negative 4
12.
so would be 24 on the back. Feel like you did this one too, but so the time required to complete a job varies inversely as the number of people working. It took 4 hours for 7 electricians to wire a building. How long would it have taken 3 electricians to have done the job? What's important there? Varies inversely.
4 hours.
The time required, 4 hours.
Number of people working.
Number of people working.
7. How long would it have
7
to
electricians, how long?
And then 3 electricians.
And then 3 electricians. Right, so the time would be our Y, number of people would be our X. So we're looking for what variable? Y. So now we're in inverse mode. So to find our K, we would do what?
Multiply.
Multiply what 2 numbers?
4 and 7.
4 and 7. And then to set up our equation, what would that look like?
I think we should multiply it by 60 first.
Y equals
28.
28 times 3
Divided by 3.
divided by 3. And that would give you
9.30.
so there's only one answer that has 9 anything. If you were wondering, again, that would be 20 divided by 60, which would give you that same decimal. So it doesn't matter for the time. Other questions?
On 18, I thought We already did that one, but I was confused. So I thought we were supposed to, like, when you divide it, I thought all of them were supposed to be the same.
Correct,
That's
but
how
this
it's
one
started.
says which one does not vary.
Oh.
But if it said which one does vary, yes, we would be looking for which one is the same. Other questions?
How would you divide it if it's inverse?
So multiply to find k, but the equation is y equals k over x. So this is your inverse equation, but this is how we find k. You're going to be doing both
Oh.
regardless. It just depends on what you're looking for.
Wait, so which one is which?
This is to find k. This is your inverse equation.
But if it's inverse and direct, which one is which? Which one do I multiply with and which one do I divide?
Inverse, it depends on what you're looking for. But if you're just looking for the equation, inverse, dividing, direct, multiplying.
Okay.
But if you're looking for k, that switches. Other questions? In the table below, y varies inversely as x. What is the missing value? So you can really do a couple different things with this. One way to do this would be find your k value. So 3 times 4, 6 times 2, what would that give you? 12. So that means whatever this multiplies to be, it has to be 12. So you can set up your equation. We know it's k equals x times y, or y times x. We know x, we know k, we don't know y. So you can either set this up in the same format, you can set it up in your inverse equation, y equals k over x, or x. You can do either one. Solve for y, so that y equals 1. Other problems?
What am I
Yes.
doing?
Jackson, then
Can we do 17 real quick?
on that table. Sorry, what was your question?
It was on 16. So when I'm solving that for the 12, is that my k?
In the table, y varies directly with x. Which equation best describes the data? So we have to find k first before we can look at the equation. But I can also eliminate these because these are to find k. X times y equals k. That's inverse. So it's going to be c or d. So if we divide y by x, what would that be? 3/5. So d.
Is it always y over x?
For direct, yes.
And for inverse, it's y?
Or y times x, it doesn't matter. Other questions?
20.
Y varies directly as x, and y equals 3 when x equals 12. What is the value of y when x equals 18? So this is just like this one, without all the words. So we would find k first by doing what? 3 divided by 12.
Y equals 1/4.
have less to do because they already told us what X and Y are. Yes. On which page?
On this page.
Page number 7. So this is like your tables, your mapping, word pairs.
So if you try and do it, conversely, does it have all the same when you try and do it in direct?
So try one. If that works, then great. You don't have to try the other. If it doesn't work, try the other one. Or it may say varies inversely, varies directly, and then you're using that specific one.
That was my question.
Any other last minute questions? When we get back from lunch, you guys are gonna take your tests. Put your tests in.